Hey everyone, welcome back to the Interaxis YouTube channel and Interaxis.io. Today we're going to move on with our talk about staking. Staking has been something that I've gotten a lot of emails and Twitter and such asking me to talk about staking. And if you watched the last video, if you haven't yet, I recommend you go look at that. We talked about the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. And in order to do that, I created this fictional company called Ratoria. Ratoria is started by Ron and Adam. We moved there with our families. It's this island nation. And what we started doing in order to kind of seed the economy is we said, look, it's us. It's a printing press. It's a beautiful island. We want people to move here. We will turn on the printing press and print money for the people that are working. So they come here. They have a job on the island, but we're not completely socialist, right? So we want everyone to earn based on what they can do. So we're going to turn on the printing press and print money. And when people work, we're going to give them money. We're only going to print a certain amount of money for that purpose, right? Because we don't want to just always be printing money, because that will lead to hyperinflation, right? If we have too much money, then everything becomes devalued. So now we're at the point where we say, okay, we're kind of on this beautiful island of Ratoria, right? We have all these people working as chef, teacher, mechanic, builder, whatever they are, and they've been earning money, right? And our money, of course, is called raw. That's what our money is called. So they've been earning it. They've been saving it into their bank account at the Bank of Ratoria, right? And because they've been saving their raw that they've earned by doing work in their bank account, they can now transact with each other. So the chef that cooks a meal for the teacher can pay in raw, and we don't always have to be compensating the chef by printing more money. The teacher can compensate the chef some of what he or she has made in raw out of their own bank account. Okay, so because of that, because we've kind of seeded the economy and tell everyone, look, for a while, if you work with us, we will pay you raw that we print. Eventually, we will pay you less and less raw for the work you do, because you will be able to pay each other. And hopefully the economy can sustain itself, okay? But we've gotten to this point now where, okay, Ratoria is this beautiful island, but Ratoria has to do business with the U.S., and has to do business with the EU, and has to do business with Russia and Japan, okay? And it has to do that because Ratoria can't produce everything. Right? They can't always get leather to make clothing or shoes. They can't always get all the food we want to eat. On top of that, we want people to come to Ratoria and enjoy our beautiful island and stay in our beautiful hotels and eat at our restaurants and everything. So somehow we need to make sure that the raw holds some sort of stability. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly stable. It doesn't have to be pegged, but it has to have some sort of stability with the dollar and with the EU and with the currencies from Russia and Japan. Okay, the ruble and the yen and such. It has to kind of hold its value. Because when people, when we buy things, we can't have this deal where the U.S. dollar gets so strong compared to the raw because we've only been using it internally that we can't afford anything anymore. Because then no one will want to come live here, because it'll be its own little society where we can only function ourselves, and no one can ever leave the island because we can't afford anything off the island, right? We have to function in the rest of the world. That's just how it works. So now what we have to do is we have to give incentive to others from outside our little community to convert their other currencies into raw. Okay, we have to give them some sort of incentive to do that. And in doing that, we need them to hold it in our depository. Okay, so I'm going to kind of erase some of this. We need to give them some sort of incentive to hold it for a while, right, so that we can somewhat stabilize, right? So we have people like the ubiquitous Alice, Bob, Jane, Bill, whomever, which might be from several other countries, right? And Alice might transact in dollars, and Bob might be in yen, and Jane might be in euros, and Bill might be in euros, okay? And what we want them to all do is convert that to raw and put it in the federal depository. Okay, and this is money that is now owned by the government. It's owned by us, right? And the reason why we need to keep some depository is because we don't want to have to print money every time we need to buy dollars to make a transaction in dollars. We don't have to print money every time we have to buy yen in order to make a transaction in yen. If we do that, we're printing far too much raw, and we're devaluing it, because the more of something there is, if there's not that much of a demand for it and there's more supply, as you know, the value of it goes down. So here's what we do. We tell these people, look, take your dollars, your yen, your euros, and convert them into raw, and then we want to hold them. We want to hold all of your raw in our depository. And here's what we're going to do. Here's the incentive we're going to do, because we need this. We've already seeded our own economy, but we need this to function within the rest of the world. Okay, and so everyone else can see the raw as a currency that they want to not necessarily use to transact elsewhere, but raw as a currency that can somewhat stay stable with theirs, so that we can transact some business, people can come visit us, and it doesn't get overly expensive or overly cheap or whatever it might be. So hold your raw, hold it in our depository. That means that we have this raw, potentially, that if we have to go buy something in dollars, it's easy for us to convert this to dollars to go make a purchase if we have to. So here's what staking is, and here's essentially what we're doing, is we're telling all these people, look, Alice, let's say Alice has 45% of the raw that's sitting in the depository. And again, she can't get this out anytime soon. We tell her, we have to hold this for a while. So what we do is every day we have kind of a lottery system. We throw a bunch of ping pong balls into a hopper, and we pull them out. So we're going to say this is Alice, Bob, Jane, and Bill, right? So we throw a bunch of ping balls in. She has balls 1 through 45, 46 to 70, 71 to 80, 81 to 100. Okay? We randomly pull out a ball. Let's say it's ball number 75 we pull out on today. Today's Wednesday, we pull out ball number 75. We tell Jane, thank you for holding all this. Because you held your money here, you are going to look across our ledger. You're going to make sure that everything, that all the transactions that happened in raw that day are what actually happened. Jane kind of gives it a once-over and says, yes. Thank you very much, Jane. Jane says, all right, Bill, Alice, Bob, here's what happened. Alice, Bob, and Bill go, okay, Jane, we approve. We agree with what you said happened, because that's part of the deal. You put your money in, you leave your raw in our depository, and everyone agrees all the transactions that happened today on Wednesday actually happened. We're going to go forward with the next day. All right. Thank you very much, Jane. Because you did that and you actually won that lottery, we're going to reward you with, 100 raw into your account. Thank you very much. So the next day, we do the whole thing again. Jane might have a little bit, higher percentage. She might have 11%, and we've taken, 1 from each of these, right? So this might be 44, 24, 19 or something, and she's got 13 now because we increased the amount of raw, and now she's got more ping pong balls, and she's got a better chance. Okay, but day 2, it might be, ball number 3 we pull out. Okay, and now Alice wins, and she gets the 100 raw. But what we're doing is we're rewarding these people. Essentially, these people are loaning us their raw to keep in our depository in case we need to use it for some purpose. And for the privilege of loaning it to us, what we're saying is, thank you very much. Every day, you're going to have this percentage chance based on how much you're loaning us to win this much raw, because we don't want to keep printing raw every time we have to buy something. We're only going to print it every day and give it to the people who are actually holding it. Okay, and they can decide if they want to put that back in our depository or take it out. Okay, that is staking. That is exactly how staking works. Is I have some sort of cryptocurrency and I stake it. So I keep it on the network, somehow the network of that particular cryptocurrency. And every time there's some sort of transaction or they mint more of whatever that cryptocurrency is, I have a certain percentage chance, based on how much cryptocurrency I have staked, I have a certain percentage chance of winning that block, of processing that block. And my reward for that is I get some of that cryptocurrency rewarded. Okay? So the deal is, all these different cryptocurrencies, in the same way as countries like Ratoria, what we need, we have a certain purpose. And our purpose is, we need to get our RAW, we need to get our currency stabilized within the whole world economy. We already got it stabilized internally. We need to stabilize it in the whole world economy. For different cryptocurrencies, for different projects, they need it stabilized, or they need it to grow for different reasons. Okay, so one that I use, and again, I'm not giving financial advice, I'm not telling you to do this, is I actually have synthetics. It's just a fun project. I enjoy playing with it. I'll do another video on it at some point. But basically what I do is I lock up my synthetics. I create synthetic USD, and it kind of stays in this little ecosystem once I've locked it up. And within here, I can trade on the synthetic market. I can trade synthetic BTC, synthetic ETH, synthetic foreign currencies, whatever it might be. But because I locked up my SNX, meaning I'm going to kind of play in the ecosystem, I get rewarded with more of it, because synthetics is charging a tiny little transaction fee every time there's a transaction in here. And those of us that have locked it up and have said, we're going to participate, we're going to contribute to the growth of the ecosystem, we get rewarded by getting some block reward, or getting some of these transaction fees paid to us, because what we did is we said, all right, we're going to lock this up. We're not going to go trade it on Bittrex or Binance or some other exchange where it's traded. We're going to lock it up and actually contribute and be part of the growth of the ecosystem. And that's important, because that ecosystem of in this case, SNX, can't really grow if we're just trading the token up and down. They need it to grow by the fact that we use the token to do what they intended it to do. And what they intended it to do is to convert it to synthetic USD, and then use that synthetic USD to trade within their little market. And if more of us don't do that, there's not enough liquidity in this market for it to mean anything. And they want it to be useful and mean something. And again, I'll go over that in a whole different video. But the idea is they have a particular point for their token. And their token is not just to be traded up and down on an exchange. The point of their token is to convert it, to lock it up, and to actually trade within their little exchange, within their ecosystem. In order to do that, they need more of us to start using it. Because eventually there'll be this tipping point where there are enough of us, enough people actually using this, where their market becomes kind of its own ecosystem. It has its own use. And in order to do that, they need us to lock it up, and they're willing to reward us for the first several years. So that's a kind of a type of staking, right? So that's how staking works, right? Is you say, look, I'm willing to not trade this particular token for a while. In this case, I'm willing to not do anything with my dollars. I'm willing to convert my dollars to raw. You can hold them in your depository to use them for whatever you need to, but I want to get rewarded. Same thing happens in the cryptocurrency world, right? I stake, meaning I'm going to lend you some of my cryptocurrency that I bought. I might have converted my Bitcoin or my ETH to this other cryptocurrency, and I say, look, I'm going to lend it to you. You hold it in the ecosystem. Do whatever you need to do so that you can grow liquidity or grow the market, whatever you need to. I just need to get rewarded for that. And the reward, if it's a straight loan, the reward is called interest. In this case, it's usually some sort of block rewards or transaction fee rewards. It's kind of like sharing profits. It's kind of like profit sharing. It's something like that. Now, that's proof of stake, or that's staking. So delegated proof of stake, or delegated staking, says this. We in Ratoria say, look, if you have like 1 million, or you have to have like 100,000 raw to even participate in this, because we can't be looking at everyone who's got like 1 raw, throwing it in there and going, gosh, because we can't break up a ping pong ball into that many little pieces. So we say, look, you have to have a certain amount of raw to participate. And I go, man, I don't have that much raw. So what I can do is I can say, look, I'm going to delegate mine to Bob. So my 10 raw get delegated to Bob. Okay, so Bob's percentage might go up to 28%. and Alice's goes down to 42, and what is this, still 10 and 20. I think my math works out there, right? So I might delegate mine to Bob. So Bob has a better chance of getting his ping pong ball pulled on this particular round. And therefore, if Bob happens to win, whichever blocks, whichever fees or rewards Bob gets, he gives me a little cut of it. Okay, he keeps a little piece and I keep a little piece, right? Because he's doing all the administration and everything, but I get a little cut. So I get to delegate my 10. I say, Bob, my 10 goes in with Bob's vote. Okay, with Bob's ping pong balls, I'm going to delegate to that. So when there are some companies, and again, I'm not advocating anyone in particular. There's Staked. There's My Cointainer. There is, I think, there's a bunch of their staking services I'm forgetting right now, and I really apologize to all of those. And I will certainly add to them and tweak them out and everything else. These are a few that I know of that I've actually used. Again, I'm not advocating anyone. That I've actually used and played around with these. But where they will help their staking pools, and they say, look, we have this huge staking pool, and if you have some tokens, you can delegate to ours, and we're a lot more likely to win more of these rewards, and therefore we're going to give you a little cut. So it's a way for you, if you own some tokens, to earn a little bit extra on top of your tokens just by having them sit there. If you were just going to have them sit there anyway, you might as well earn a little bit on them. The same way, if you have a little die sitting around, you might as well earn interest. Go, do a compound loan or something like that. You might as well earn 7-8%, whatever it is. Here with staking, you can earn a little bit. Now you have to evaluate the projects. You have to say, look, I can make 150% by staking this certain token, but then you really have to look at the risk of the token and go, gosh, is that project just going to totally go away and all my tokens are completely worthless right now? Or I have, twice as many tokens because of my staking, but the token is actually worth half as much, so I'm at exactly even for all that time I held it. So you really have to look at your risk and reward and everything else, and there are some tokens where the staking rewards aren't quite as much, but the value of the token is always going to be there. It's no different than if you're investing in stocks and you look at stocks and you go, well, this particular company, this stock isn't going to grow quite as much, but they're always going to pay a dividend. Or some companies pay a higher dividend, but they're just not going to have that growth potential because of it. It's the same thing with staking. You have to evaluate the project, what you have to go through to actually delegate and stake, how often the rewards are there, how hard it is to collect, is that project still going to be around, is it worthwhile? And then you might go, look, do I even believe in this project? And if I do, then I'm willing to help that project grow because I think it's important. So anyway, that I think is a relatively good definition and idea of staking and how it works. I hope that was somewhat helpful. Please contact me. Let me know if you have any other questions. There are lots of videos here on YouTube and other articles and stuff talking about staking and how it works. I thought this might illustrate it, I don't want to say a little better. It might illustrate it in a way that people understand it. Don't forget, please, to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us on our website, interaxis.io. Twitter is @interaxis8, the number 8. Info@interaxis.io if you have questions, have any other videos you want to see, and we hope to see you in the next video.